Hello. Okay, Saw 10. I'm gonna surprise a lot of people here, I think. I've only ever seen one of these movies in its entirety, and that's the original. And that was only a couple of months ago. I ended up really enjoying it. I really liked the film. But I've only seen moments and parts of the sequels. So, yeah. Saw 10. A sequel to the original and a prequel to the second. The movie follows a sick and desperate John Kramer who travels to Mexico for a risky and experimental medical procedure in the hopes of a miracle cure for his cancer, only to discover the entire operation is a scam to defraud the most vulnerable. Let's start with one of the main reasons why we go to watch these movies, and that's the torture set pieces, the blood and the gore. And it's all you. These moments were one of the highlights for me with this experience. For me personally, I've never really been a massive fan of this sort of frantic style of shooting these moments and with the editing. Like we've got, with all the sequels where the camera will just kind of whiz around these scenes. And I understand why they're doing it because, it's to add sort of that energy and sort of really kind of mirror that frantic horror of trying to escape these torture, these torture mechanisms. And so I understand why they do it, but I just felt like it was always a little bit too much and ended up feeling a little bit cheap and would throw me out. With Saw 10, we've got those signature kind of moments with that signature style of filmmaking with the very kind of frantic editing and the quick sort of like movements with the camera as these people are sort of really, panicking and trying to work out how they're going to get out of these traps. And I like it because it mirrors and just elevates that frantic energy, but I always felt like they relied on it too much. They know when to pull back. So we've got those signature moments, but they pull back at the right time as well. And I just found myself, as a result of that, enjoying these moments a hell of a lot more. Another aspect that made these moments really work and just become really effective for me, like there are times where I just had to turn my head, I winced, I was like hoping they wouldn't show a certain moment, and they fucking would, and it was just the right amount. They did such a great job at crafting these moments, and one of the main reasons why it worked for me was practical effects. It's as simple as that. I adored the use of practical effects in this movie. Don't get me wrong, there is still some CGI to just sort of touch up some of the moments that needed it. But I just really thought they did a fantastic job. I just really liked the effort they put into, adding as much practical to these moments as possible. Because as a result, these scenes, these very bloody, gory, brutal moments became so much more effective. And with someone like myself who's been watching horror movies like Alien from a very young age, to actually achieve that today in these horror movies, for me anyway, personally, is a massive achievement. And they achieved it here with me because, I found these scenes hard to watch and I fucking loved it as a result. Another highlight for me with this movie was Tobin Bell as John Kramer, or Jigsaw. I just really like how he brings this character to life, just with his mannerisms and the way he sort of just expresses himself and gives his reasons to why he's doing what he's doing. He adds so much to this character that with this film we don't just see the monster side of him, but also the human side as well. And I just really think he did a really good job at switching between the both. It's very slight, but he does it beautifully, switching between that human side to the monster side. And just the way he carries himself, his presence throughout the film, he carries this movie. He does a really good job at playing this character and delivering the lines from what I felt was a very, very weak script. My biggest problem with this movie was the writing, and I just found myself really struggling to buy into the logic of the story and just believing in a lot of the characters and their motivations, and just it all ended up coming across a little hammy when it came to the performances from the cast. Very straight to video kind of acting, and I was never really sure in moments if it was the performances or the writing, but there are some moments when it comes to the performances that just made me cringe, and as a result was just taking me out of this film. I really liked the ideas that this movie was exploring, but ultimately it just ended up feeling like they were really trying to squeeze as much out of this franchise and its iconic characters as much as possible. The ideas are good, and what they were trying to do with certain characters like John Kramer, I was really interested in and intrigued. But when it came, we do get to see that human side of him, which I was really enjoying. I really enjoyed the first 10 to 20 minutes of this movie where we see a much more of that human side of John Kramer. But for me, overall, just really lacked focus and depth on what they were trying to explore with the ideas and the character of John Kramer. And so, yeah, I could see what they were trying to do, especially with a lot of the emotional scenes, the emotional moments between characters. I could see they were trying to sort of add emotion and heart into this story, but it wasn't working for me. They weren't quite pulling it off for me because I just couldn't quite buy into these relationships and the overall story. And whether that's because I've not seen the second movie and all the other movies in their entirety, I don't know. But for me, watching this, I felt like a lot of it was down to the writing. I actually found the experience to be quite predictable as well. They do try their hardest to surprise us quite a bit, mainly in the third act, with a lot of these twists and these turns, and I just seen them coming from a mile off. And yeah, I liked a lot of the ideas in this movie. I just don't think they quite pulled them off. There is this moment with John Kramer and a kid right in the first act, and it's just him and this kid interacting with the bike, and he tells this kid not to pull. Now that plays into a scene within the third act, and at first I thought it was quite clever until I really thought about it. I'm like, hang on a minute, that was just chance that he said that. But at first I was like, oh, he was actually kind of plotting all along. But then when I really thought about it, I was like, no, actually that doesn't make sense, that wouldn't work out. And it's like, that's what this overall experience felt like for me. It was a lot of what could have been as well. Like going back to sort of what they were trying to do with the character of John Kramer and the ideas and all of that. It was the execution of it all that just really just didn't work. They just didn't come together. So yeah, I would go to watch this movie if you're going to see this movie for those torture set pieces, the blood and the gore, and just having Tobin Bell be Jigsaw, because he is fantastic in this role, then you're going to really enjoy this film. Those moments are the highlights, and I just think the way in which those moments are crafted are fantastic. And Tobin Bell's performance he's brilliant as Jigsaw. But everything else in between all of that, the story, the writing, a lot of the other characters, the side characters, it really just didn't work for me. Which is unfortunate, because I can see a lot of people are really enjoying and loving this film, and great. I think that's great, and I do recommend this for all of those who love their blood and their gore and all these, these type of films. But for me, it just failed on a lot of other elements and aspects. So yeah, it was enjoyable, but it was a very average experience for me. So they are my thoughts on Saw 10, and I will be giving Saw 10 a 5 out of 10. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Saw 10. What did you guys think? Please let me know in the comments below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Then let me know, and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to see future reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. My next review will be it's a very late review of Ahsoka episode 7. That will definitely be my next review. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you soon.